And please keep on interacting with me because, you know, I want to know that you are still there, not asleep yet. Lapar ke? Sikit je, kejap je. Maybe we can wrap up in less than 1 hour, hopefully. Okay. So anyway, welcome to our second class for the week. Today is just on the introduction of energy, right? And the learning outcomes, okay, this is something that I really like to do with every lecture, okay? So you know exactly what you are going to learn for today. So first is to describe the definition of energy. That would be the most straightforward thing. And to understand the history of energy and its role in human civilization. So I'm sorry because the topic of history sometimes for some people is very, very boring. Yeah. But I think it's good to know about the background or something, okay, because that's how you can learn to appreciate something. Right, so for energy, okay, just a very quick question. Natural resources, when you look around you, okay, I know you are in your room or around your house, okay, what is natural resource? What are the things that you can think of that are natural resources? Anyone? Cakap je. There's no right or wrong answer.
Natural resource tu macam semula jadi doktor.
Boleh
Macam
jadi, okay.
sun, wind,
Sun.
betul doktor?
Betul. Yeah.
Sunlight.
Sunlight. Okay, betul. So what else? Cuba tengok keliling. What do you see?
Wind doktor.
Water,
Wind.
doktor.
Water.
Water. Water tu you minum hari-hari.
Water lupa.
Yes, water is one of the most important natural resources. Tak ada air boleh mati.
Sunlight, sun.
Sunlight definitely. Okay, kalau tak ada sunlight, you tak
Oil.
boleh. Oil. Betul. Lagi.
Coal.
Coal,
Fire.
yeah. Fire is not natural resources per se. Okay, dia ialah sort of energy. Dia energy
Natural
yang
gas.
Natural gas, yes. Dah ada natural tu kan. Okay, congratulations. I think you cover everything, guys. So natural resources are substances required by humans for different needs. So memang, if you look around you, tadi yang ada sebut on biomass is another natural resources. Your pokok-pokok kat luar rumah, yeah. Sebab if you think back, orang dulu-dulu kan, the olden people, they create fire, diorang nak masak. They want to cook by wood fire kan. So that are the type of resources that are available to them at that time. Okay, and of course, other than that is, grains that you have, that is plants, of course, but from the grains is where you get your food. Okay? And then this one is, yang ni tak ada orang sebut tadi, it's more about metals and ores lah. Okay, so biji timah ke, aluminium, all those natural resources that people have access to, okay, that allows the world to come to what it is today. Okay, we have a lot of advances because we have access to all these natural resources, right? So energy resources. Okay, tadi natural resources. Now energy resources. What is an energy resources? Example. Ini dah sebut tadi banyak. Bilang lagi sekali.
Wind.
Wind, yes. Exactly.
Electricity.
Okay. Electricity tu sebenarnya it's the energy, the power kan. So it comes from what? So tadi daripada wind boleh jadi electricity. So resources ni is the source. So maksudnya the power, the energy that you use is, let's say in terms of electricity. So resources is where that electricity comes from. Okay. So for example, tengok gambar tu. Natural resources such as sunlight, oil, gas, coal, so semua dah sebut tadi. But if you look here, ni apa ni? What is this one?
Wave.
Wave, yes. Can be water juga. Okay, so for siapa yang a few had mentioned hydropower tadi. So water wave can be used to generate energy. Okay, and this one? Tadi dah cakap.
Wind.
Wind, yes,
Wind.
exactly. Ni the wind turbines kan. So dia generate electricity from that. This one yang tengah ni. Apa tu? Macam api-api tu.
Coal.
Coal, yes, exactly. Coal ni. So this is arang batu. So basically in power plants, this is what is currently the majority of resources used in power plants in Malaysia lah, is coal. Okay, arang batu. So if you go anywhere near power plants, like I said before, I was working in TMB Jana Manjung. So this is the country's biggest power plant. Okay, and they have like miles and miles of coal right next to the plant, and you can see it's sometimes instantly combustible. So ada tiba-tiba ada fire, and then there will be some sprinklers next to it, because it has a lot of energy, very easily combustible, and you can imagine why we use that in power plants, right? Okay, this one, what is this?
Solar.
Solar, yes, sunlight or solar. Okay, because this is solar panels kan. Right, last one, this one. Jawapan ada kat atas
Petroleum.
ni. Yes, exactly. So this is oil and gas. So oil and gas is usually dekat deep sea kan. So this is pelantar minyak, or you say offshore oil and gas platform lah for oil extraction. Okay, so I just want you guys to be familiar with what is energy resources. Okay, because later, not for this class, but in a few classes next, we will discuss about renewable and non-renewable resources. Okay, so you can already imagine here what is renewable, apa yang not renewable kan. But we will talk further into that later in that class. But I just want you to have a brief general idea about this. Okay, now, cuba tepuk tangan. Clap your hands. Okay, so what actually happens sebenarnya when you hear the order, when you hear that word, clap your hands kan? So what exactly happens is you hear that and your brain will tell your hands, okay, apa nak buat, what you are going to do, you need to clap your hands. But everything, you have to remember, everything that you want to do requires energy, okay? So imagine this is you, okay, whoever that is. And when you breathe, you get oxygen and you breathe out carbon dioxide, right? So this is related to energy inside your body, okay? So remember just now the order to clap, and then you need to clap. So how that movement is done is because you change, your body basically changes that chemical energy, okay, into the kinetic energy, right? So maybe it's a little bit confusing, but I just want you to imagine furthermore, because it's very interesting. When we talk about energy, we always think about, you know, electricity, but no, it's even there in our body. Okay, looking back into biology, no one, I think everyone took biology, right? In high school, ke tak ada?
Yes, doctor.
Yes,
Yes.
doctor.
Sedih je bunyi. But that's okay. This won't go into the exam, guys, but it's you know, the general information or knowledge that, you know, people sometimes think they know, but they don't really. So just a recap. Okay. So what happened just now? You need the energy, your muscles need the energy to clap. Okay. So your brain tells your muscle, okay, you need certain amount of energy. And in your mitochondria, okay, this energy will be generated. Okay, ATP is the form of energy in your body. Okay, so imagine every time you eat food, okay, that food, you know, people talks about calorie all the time. So that calorie is the energy, potential energy that you have from the food. Because what happened is it will change, your body will change that glucose, that calorie, into the energy. Okay, and that's why people who are going for diets, okay, you want to lose weight, people say that, okay, count your calories. Why? Because you have minimal amount, you can take minimal amount of calories, okay, and you can use that to make sure that your fat is burned. Because remember, fat is the energy storage for your body. Okay, if you eat more than you're supposed to, that energy will be stored into your body in the form of fat. Okay, that's why people do exercise, because you know the metabolic rate will be increased, blah blah blah, right? So I hope you are still there, still can follow. Masih okay?
Yes, Doctor. Okay.
You stop pula saya senyap. Yeah, so basically that is what happened. So that's inside your body. So ATP, when you talk about energy, not only the big stuff, but already there inside your body as well. Okay, so one more thing that I just want to highlight, right? If you look down there, there's some credit there, right? So this is talking about, because most of you guys are going to do your FYP, right? So whenever you take something from the internet or from whatever, you have to cite that, okay? Because it's not what, not something that you do yourself. It's not an original work that is you paint it yourself or something. So every time you do something like this, you copy paste something, make sure to have citation, okay? So that people will be credited where they're due, right? So just a reminder. Okay, that's what happens in the body. So we look at the history of energy, okay? And yeah, this will be, I think, we'll go quite fast on this one. So a long time ago, this was around 700,000 years ago, or maybe million years ago, the Paleolithic timeline. You know, the first time people discovered fire, okay, it was a point of change, okay, because previously they don't have any access to fire, so they don't really, you know, they cannot cook food, they cannot keep warm. So a lot of, you can imagine the way people live back then, okay. So not people like us, very different kind of people. But then when they discover fire, okay, fire is one form of energy, right? And it can give you heat, it can give you a lot of other things as well. Okay, you can start to cook with that. A lot of things can be done, right? And in 2000 BC, okay, the Chinese, they begin to burn coal because they discovered coal, right, for heating and cooking. So that was in 2000 BC, right? And you know, after that, people start using energy in different kinds of ways. Okay, they start to discover a lot of other resources, right? For example, the Romans, they use these furnaces. Okay, so you can imagine. So when you are in a very cold place, okay, it's very different than what we have experienced for us in the tropics. Very different, because it's very cold. People can die from the cold, okay, and which is why a long time ago, the access to fire or heat, you know, is something very costly, right? But then it's also something necessary. Okay, so they use furnace that heat their empty spaces. Okay, and with this access to heat, they're able to live more comfortably. Okay, and you know, the advances starts to become more and more apparent after that. Okay, and then they discover hydropower. Hydropower was used by the Greeks, okay, to grind grains. Okay, you can see a lot of European, if you look at European historic paintings, for example, you can see a lot of water wheels, because At that time, people are more into agriculture, so they need all these tools, all these ways to generate energy to help them to manage their resources, okay, their grains. And of course, after that, they discovered windmills, okay, windmills, but generally at that time, because people are more about agriculture, so you can see a lot of these advances are more geared towards agriculture, okay? And then the Industrial Revolution in 1750s, okay? Because what happened, they discovered coal in Britain, okay? So sometimes people might ask, okay, just now the Chinese discovered coal much earlier. So what happened in between? So that's how people from different civilizations handle their own resources. Okay, some resources are available to people at different locations and different times, right? So the Industrial Revolution is really something that is the spark. Okay, so people start moving from agriculture into the industry. People can start building things, manufacture things in larger scales because of the Industrial Revolution, right? So they use coal at that time. And then in 1820s, around 1850s, the first natural gas well and oil well was drilled, right? So you can imagine now they discovered coal and then discovered the other types of fossil fuels. Okay, that's where it all fits into each other, right? How the technological advances, the Industrial Revolution had really taken off and speed up the other fossil fuels as well. So Thomas Edison, the first light bulb, okay, I'm sure you guys know that already. Okay. And then Nikola Tesla, he invents the alternating current system. So this is the AC that we use nowadays. Okay, because if you look back around this time, there was really big competition between AC and DC. Okay, not AC/DC the band, but AC/DC as in alternating current, AC, and the direct current, which is DC. Okay, DC is Thomas Edison, and then Nikola Tesla actually invents the alternating current system. So it's very interesting if you look at history, right? So you know that Nikola Tesla had invents AC, okay, but apparently he died a very poor man, okay, because at the time of his death, AC wasn't taken as something conventional. People were going towards DC at that time. So apparently there's a very big competition between Tesla and Edison at that time. And basically Tesla lost. So you can read more into this. Okay, it's very interesting around this time, right? Okay, and next, 1883, first solar cell. So it's very interesting, very eye-opening to know that solar cell has been invented more than 100 years ago. Okay, it's been a very long time. Actually, it's there, right? And then hydroelectric generators in Niagara Falls. Okay, and this is when electricity really starts taking off, because previously it can only power up very small systems, but now with hydroelectric, okay, they were able to generate enough electricity to power a whole city. Okay, and that's when it starts to boom off. And then you can see around 30 years after that, half of all homes in America have electric power. Okay, and 1926 in UK, right? And national grid, why is it important? Okay, if you know, even in our country, right, TNB, we have our own power grid. So why is it that power grid is really important? Okay, we'll talk about this more when we learn about electricity, I think in the second half of the semester. But it's because, when you look at hydroelectric just now, the problem with that is, of course, you can supply for one whole city, but how you want to transfer the electricity across the whole country? It takes very big distance, and there's a lot of things you have to cover, which is why the power grid is really something of an achievement at that time. Okay. All right, not going to go through everything, okay, but just highlighting here 1948 Ghawar oil field. So this was the world's largest petroleum deposit in Saudi Arabia. Okay, and really, after that, oil starts taking off. But then, of course, we have a lot of mixed thoughts about it nowadays. Okay, but back then it was like a gold rush. Okay, because the oil, when it was discovered, that's why they call it the black gold. Okay, because it's a very lucrative business. A lot of people make money during that time. Okay, and you can imagine all of our systems, our cars, our power plants, our even to manufacture things. Okay, they use a lot of ONG products, right? So as it goes along, okay, the cost of energy, yeah. So I've mentioned to you yesterday about the good benefit of energy. When you see here, right, when the Industrial Revolution happened, the world's population suddenly increased. It increased a lot, okay, because now humanity have access to better standards of living. You can they can get better infrastructure, better healthcare, less mortality rate. People doesn't die more often, okay, because they have access to a lot of things basically. And then this creates some sort of a dilemma, because our population keeps growing, okay, and the demands for energy keeps increasing. Okay? But as it is right now, we are fully dependent on the natural resources. Okay, the natural resources, think back about what you guys pointed out before. There are non-renewable things in there. Okay, so eventually it will run out. That is where the sustainability is, really comes into question. Okay, and not only that, because of the negative impact of fossil fuels as well, okay, to the environment, to the society. Okay, so it's very interesting to look at this in a holistic way. So, which is why we cannot deny that fossil fuel has been very good in giving us the life that we have right now. But now it's our responsibility, okay, to save the planet per se. It sounds corny, okay, but it's true, because everyone has to take part. There's a lot of different agendas, different policies that is in effect right now for us to achieve that target. Okay, so we will also learn about policies and stuff, and things like public perception later on in this class, not this particular one, but later in the second half of the semester as well. Right. Now, for this one, very quick look on this. Okay, so just now petroleum. So even until now, petroleum, basically the fossil fuel is still at the top. Okay, however, the renewables are catching up, okay, which is very good, right? But we can see here, wood, for example, wood here. Why is it still in use? Okay, so I just want to bring back your attention to people who are in the third world countries here, because for example, people in Nigeria, okay, a lot of them still do not have access to electricity or even clean water, right? They can only get fire through wood. So they have to go to search for wood and then make fire from that and then boil their water. So it's a very hard life. This is in third world countries. Okay, so we have to be when we look at that, right? We cannot simply say, okay, everyone stop using fossil fuels, stop using non-renewable resources. Okay, because there are people who are not who cannot access such things. Okay, so at this point, it's no longer about fairness in a way. Okay, so you cannot say, oh, I don't want to do that because everyone else is not doing it. So it's not that. My point here is everyone has to feel responsible to do something, okay, in their own capacity, right? Okay, very serious pula kan. So now, how do we define energy? Okay, just a quick question. I'm not sure about this, but you guys, did you take physics, environmental physics with Dr. Faiz anytime before? Ke memang tak
During
ada?
our first year.
First year, ada. Everyone had taken physics, environmental physics?
Yes.
Ada, okay. Good. Okay. Good to know everyone is still there. Let anything up. All right. Okay. Right. So this will be just a recap then, because I think you guys have already, covered this in the physics class. Actually, this is something like force, work. Kan? Ada tak? Ada nampak tak pasal force, pasal work?
Ada doktor.
Ada kan?
F sama dengan MA.
Yes, F equal to MA. Siapa yang cakap tadi? Dia kot
Tapi lupa
Okay.
sudah.
Sudah. That's okay. This will be a recap class lah kan. So force, F. Force is any influence that causes an object to undergo a certain change. I baca je. Either concerning its movement, direction or geometrical construction. Okay, so this is the textbook description of force. Okay, but to put it simply, if you have a box, you push it or you pull it, okay, you need some force, right? Because you kena tarik, you kena tolak, that is what is called force. So in that situation, okay, either you push or pull an object, you want to make it faster, you want to change the velocity, or you want to stop it. All requires force, right? And the unit is Newton or kilogram meter per second squared, right? So why is this important? Okay, I told you last week that we do have some calculations in this course. Okay, just okay, hi, sorry. There's something to do with my computer. Okay, sekejap lama dah terpush. Okay, so this is force, right? So F equals to MA tadi kan? So you have a mass and you have an acceleration. Okay, so don't worry too much about this. We do have some calculations to be done, but it will be in forms of tutorial. So you guys will need to do some calculation, but not too much. Okay, just to know that you guys understand this concept, right? So fundamental forces in nature, okay, so these are the available forces in nature. Okay, so jangan pening-pening. It's okay, tak hafal tak apa, but you just need to know, you just need to be aware of it. Okay, first is the gravitational force, okay, and secondly is the electromagnetic force. And these two is something that you can see, okay, you can see with your eyes. For example, if you jump, macam dalam gambar ni kan, you jump, when you start to jump, you need the force to push yourself off the ground. Okay, but there will be one point where you will sort of be stationary and then jatuh. Okay, when you are falling down, you don't do anything, right? So that's where gravitational force is in effect. Okay, so it's the power, or we can say the gravitational force is something that is the force that allows you to come back down to Earth without you doing anything. Okay, and we have electromagnetic force, of course, with this one. That's why you have the tides in oceans. Okay, you can see the low tide, the high tide. Okay, so these are the forces in effect in nature that you can see with your eyes. However, with nuclear forces, okay, where you have weak and strong nuclear forces, these are forces in, very small scales, in molecules, for example. Okay? What are the things that keep the bonds of two atoms together, right? So these are the nuclear forces. You can't really see them, but you see its effect in a way that, some things are in solid form, some things are in liquid form, some things are in gas form, okay? So this is what is out there in terms of force, right? Now, what is work? Okay, sebenarnya actually we want to go to where is energy, okay? But the thing is, we need to know about all these concepts as well, right? So why we go with force first? Because now we look at work. Okay, so what exactly is work? Okay. Work is, well, you can look at the equation sort of there, W equals to F times D. Okay, so F is the force just now, and D is the distance. So very classic example is this one. So you want to move this box from point A to point B. Okay, there's a certain distance, right? And that is that D over there. And that force is how much force you need to move that box from point A to point B. Okay, so both of this, the product of force and displacement, is the work that you do. Okay, so imagine you are this poor lady here. You want to pull this box. Okay, so heavy box, right? And there's two ways of doing it. It's either the rope is perpendicular to the floor, okay, and you can use this equation to calculate that, how much work you are doing. But if it's at an angle, like this example, okay, it's at an angle and you have that specific angle, what that is, okay, you can use this one, right? So work equals to F cosine times D, okay? And D here is the distance. So imagine another situation, okay? Again, you are this lady. You are pulling this box from A to B actually, but halfway you got so exhausted, okay? And then the force that you employ starts to decrease, right? So in this situation, okay, the amount of force is not constant, right? Because here halfway the force starts going down. Then you can calculate that by using integration. Okay, ingat integration lagi tak ni? Aku dah lupa dah. Sikit-sikit ah. Okay. Ni semua refresher course lah kot. Right? So these are the calculations that, at least you are able to do, right? Won't be that hard, to be honest, because I think you have already undergone Dr. Fai's class in year 1, right? And you do take mathematics as well, if I'm not mistaken, right? So any questions at this point? Semua okay ke?
So far no, doktor.
Yeah, so far okay, doctor.
Okay, doktor.
Okay kan? Right? Okay, energy. So eventually we come to energy. So what exactly is energy? Energy is the ability to do work. Okay, just now we talk about tarik, kotak tadi kan. So the ability of you to do that, okay, that is the energy. And the unit is in joule. Okay. So of course, at the same time, work is equal to the change in the object's energy. So you have a very big, there's a lot of different conventions for this, but generally energy can be separated or categorized into two, kinetic energy and potential energy. So that is KE and PE, right? So the change in kinetic energy or the potential energy of an object, okay, or a system, that is called work, right? And that relates back to energy. So imagine this one, pendulum, kan? So pendulum ni, dia at one point, okay, when it's at the highest point, okay, the highest point ni, imagine that it stops for 1 nanosecond, and at that particular moment, okay, bila dia stop, apa yang tak ada? Apa yang ada, apa yang tak ada? When you look at kinetic and potential energy. Anyone?
Tak ada energy.
Yeah, energy is conserved. Ingat tak? Energy cannot be destroyed. Kan? It only changes form. That is the conservation of energy punya theory. Okay, so bila yang paling tinggi ni, bila dia stop, cuba tengok balik kinetic energy tu apa, potential energy tu apa. Ingat tak?
Kinetik yang bergerak tu kan, doktor?
Yes, kinetic bergerak. Exactly.
Potential, tak ingat.
Potential energy bila dia stop. So bila dia
Oh.
dekat paling tinggi ni, bila dia stationary, dia tak bergerak kan. Masa tu kinetic energy is
Zero.
Zero.
Yes. Okay. Masih jaga lagi. Takut tidur je. Alright. So at that highest point, kinetic energy is zero, and that is the highest potential energy. Sebab dia bila tinggi. Ingat tak dulu-dulu punya physics, semakin tinggi benda tu, semakin tinggi dia punya potential energy. That is the most basic things lah dulu-dulu, if you learn about it. Kan? So bila dekat this point yang masa dia paling bawah, perpendicular dengan ground, so that is the point where the kinetic energy is the highest. But potential energy is zero sebab dia dekat paling bawah. Okay, sort of sampai dekat ground level. Okay, so the changes ni, if you look at that, the total energy dalam sistem tu, if you look at this as a system, okay, it's fixed. Dia sama, dia tak berubah. The only thing that changes is the form. Sekejap dia potential energy, sekejap dia kinetic energy. Okay, so that is the conservation of energy, right? So just highlight that lah. Okay, refresher course lah katakan. Okay, wow, dah 5:48 rupanya. Okay, now we come to the, actually this is the final slide. Okay, so you look at the relationship between force, work and energy in a system. Tadi kita tengok macam we talk about clapping tadi kan, and what happens in your body. Okay, so imagine that your body is one system. Okay, so what happens? The energy system, it's there. You are an energy system. Okay, and if you look at, siapa tadi cakap pasal algae? Saya suka lah algae ni. So this is one example of algae cell. So algae cell ni is a system, okay, and the energy changes within the system. Okay, sebab if you guys can still remember photosynthesis, okay, algae it performs photosynthesis, okay, to generate its own power from the sun, right? So algae ni satu sel tu pun is considered a system. Okay. So dari sekecil-kecil, from the smallest of things, yang ni dalam micro scale and our body, okay, and to the larger scale, macam power plants. Okay. This one whole thing is a system as well. So just, I want you guys to think about, you know, energy systems, right? Not only what is obvious, okay, apa yang you tengok electricity generation tu, but also in other different systems as well. Biological system ada, mechanical system ada, right? Because this is important when you do when you look at the factors that is linked to the energy in terms of, you know, the social, the technology, the sustainability of it. Okay. All right. So far, so good.